Really a fascinating profile as you look at Saddam Hussein here, and you describe him as a man of contradictions, charming on the one hand, charismatic, but also just brutally vicious.
Yes. Yes, he was from the very beginning. Our talks had a certain pattern, and in the beginning, he was very kind, very gentle, very nice, seemed very smart, and self-deprecating and witty. But over time, another Saddam emerged, and that was a Saddam that seemed to be kind of nasty and mean-spirited and vicious, and a little scary at times. In a sense, he was very human in that regard.
I had the chance. I was in Baghdad when his trial began, and I remember being in the courtroom when he walked in. The first time I saw him in person, and I remember how the courtroom reacted to him. I mean, he clearly. Here was a guy who was on trial for his life, and he had this presence and this smile in the room. And you described that as well. When he walked into a room, something changed.
I can only imagine what it must have been like at the height of his power. And if you were a poor Iraqi and you saw this man in the Armani suit with the entourage walk in, you must have thought like that God had just arrived. And that was a sense of his power as well. He was able to overwhelm people. But, you know, he also had great political skills. And that was on view when we were talking to him as well. And you could sense, like when he came in the room, he started working the room and trying to make everybody feel comfortable. And but over time, you know, the more you got to know him, the less you liked of him.
Yeah, well, we saw that in his actions, and he filled a lot of graves.
Yes, very true. Very true.
You say he was a great politician. I mean, certainly, if we think politics are tough here, politics in Iraq, you know, literally deadly, I imagine. But you also describe him as a local boy who made good.
Yes.
Explain why.
Yeah, well, he came from Tikrit, which was really nothing much of anything. It was a very small town, and one of the things that happened throughout his lifetime was that he was a poor boy who rose to the top of his profession, and everybody always underestimated him. And people just thought that he was a nobody, and then he managed, that was one of the ways he managed to get the better of people. And, you know, his roots gave him a very good feel for Iraqi politics and the politics of the street. Where his roots tripped him up was that he was uneducated, basically. And he didn't understand international politics, and he didn't understand the bigger picture. And that's where he made some of his greatest mistakes.
Well, let's speak about one of those, and that being weapons of mass destruction, right? Yes. This idea, the reason that the U.S. brought about the invasion, and as it turned out, he didn't have weapons of mass destruction, but he, you know, was keeping that myth alive to some degree, which helped bring on the invasion. Yes. Why? What was his thinking?
Well, I think that Saddam was one of the most secretive men I'd ever met in my life. Even in prison, he would always answer a question with a question of his own. And, you know, I think that he viewed any sort of weapons program of his as a national security secret and something that he should not be telling others. He also would have said that he had already disclosed everything that he had, and he distrusted the weapons inspections process because he felt that they were infiltrated by spy services who were looking for not only for weapons of mass destruction, but for vulnerabilities to his security and to his regime. And he was not wrong about that.
Now, we have a president-elect here in the U.S. who is, in effect, taking on the U.S. intelligence community, particularly the CIA, on the issue of Russia hacking the U.S. election and really dismissing their judgment. And Donald Trump, in his tweets, has called out the CIA for getting it wrong on WMD in Iraq. From your perspective, 13 years in the agency, how dangerous is that? How damaging is that to have the president pitted against the intelligence community?
I am deeply disturbed by that development, and I hope that somehow they're able to work things out. Both sides need each other. If you have a wall, I don't want to use that metaphor with Donald Trump, but if you have a wall that arises between the president and his national security community, particularly his intelligence community, the only people that benefit are our enemies. And that is something we can't allow to have happen. So President-elect Trump needs to take his briefings, and he also needs to get his briefings every day, and he needs to sort of embrace the intelligence community, and the intelligence community needs to serve him well. They can help each other if they work together.
John Nixon, thanks very much. for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Fascinating book.
Thank you.